Survivor Series 2022 Survivor Series War Games, as now Triple H, the booker, has added the NXT War Games concept, which is really one from Jim Crockett Promotions and Dusty Rhodes back in the 80s, into the Survivor Series. And the show is now in the books, the first ever Survivor Series War Games show. Tons and tons of stuff to talk about coming out of this show. I am so happy because for the past few years, they've done that Raw SmackDown thing, and it's meant absolutely nothing. The angle hasn't really gone anywhere. Like you'll have the SmackDown Raw feud, and then one side will win, and it will mean nothing. It's not cool or fun. And it's right after a draft, too. So, there's not really that brand, loyalty. I never liked the idea of them doing that, with the exception of a couple of years when they did it. But this is the right way to do it. Just go back to having it be a pay-per-view, but now putting War Games into it. So this was a very, very good show. Not a perfect show. We'll talk about some of the things I didn't like on the show. And it's not really the booking's fault, but Survivor Series 2022 was a very, very good show. They opened up with Team Belair, which is Bianca Belair, Asuka, Mia Yim, Becky Lynch, and Alexa Bliss. SmackDown on the Go Home show had the surprise return of Becky Lynch, and she joined up with Bianca. Now, they are no longer enemies anymore, and they're going to work together against the team of Damage Control, which is, of course, Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky, along with Nikki Cross, who is now back to being crazy again, and I'm happy about that, and Rhea Ripley from the Judgment Day. This match was, what I liked about this match when compared to the men's match is that this match was a lot more filled with stunts and things of that nature. A lot of crazy spots here. The girls worked really hard. They banged each other up. There was a part in the match where I thought that Bianca Belair may have legitimately separated her shoulder. It was a moonsault spot, and the way the referee went down to check on her, and she wasn't getting up, and he was checking on her in the cage. It looked, very, very painful. She wound up being okay, but I can definitely tell it may have stung up a little bit. The match was almost 40 minutes. The whole segment kind of ate up the first hour of the show because it was the whole first hour. Pay-per-view only had 5 matches total, and I didn't see any pre-show matches on here. So, it is what it is, but the War Games matches are going to take up all the time. So, some stuff that's notable, I think, this match, you had a lot more kendo sticks, you had tables, you had ladders even, which was interesting. Didn't do much with it, but there was a really nasty spot where the girls broke through a ladder. Seeing a guy do that kind of makes sense because guys are big, big bodies, but girls are a lot smaller, especially women like Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan. So having them go, Liv Morgan wasn't in this match, but what I'm saying is having them go through these ladders was crazy, just crazy spots. And like I said, the main event, the men's War Games match, was not quite like this. It was a lot of fun and well worked, but it was more based on the drama and the angles going at it. So Becky Lynch, of course, is the last one to come in, and they did a tease of what I think is going to be the next big feud, Becky Lynch and Bayley. We've seen the 4 horsewomen have multiple feuds against each other. We've seen Charlotte feuding with Sasha, and we've seen Charlotte, of course, feuding with Becky, and the Bayley, not that much, but we've seen Bayley and Sasha. We've seen all kinds of combinations, but we haven't really seen too much of Becky and Bayley. That's a combination we haven't seen much of with those 4 women, so it's good they're going to go back to that. I know some people were wondering, well, where's Sasha Banks? Where's Naomi? I had heard that they talked to WWE a few months ago, and I'm sure they're going to come back at some point. It's just when. When is the right time? Is it the Royal Rumble? Who knows? But this is the last pay-per-view of the year. Now, I'm not including the NXT pay-per-view. You can always include that, but this is the last show of the year for WWE. So if they're going to bring him back on a pay-per-view, it would have to be there. I don't think they're going to do it in December because typically, historically, WWE in December has, and I'm going all the way back to the 90s, has been kind of a month where they sort of go on cruise control. It's not until January, at the first show of January, when you really see some focused booking going into the Royal Rumble. I've noticed throughout the years there are times where in December, the show just goes on and on and on, and they just have random filler matches and feuds that don't really have big payoffs and stuff like that. But I think this time it'll work. I really loved, there was a couple spots here that were so smooth. Like Becky Lynch, there was one where Becky Lynch went for the manhandle, and then I forgot who it was, escaped it, but then Belair hit the KOD, excuse me. The whole story here, like I said, was setting up a Lynch Bayley feud and the idea of Lynch teaming up with Bianca Belair. Because if you remember, SummerSlam last year, Becky came back and defeated Bianca, and they had that feud that wound up going into WrestleMania this year where Bianca won again. So Bianca's got, two pretty long title reigns, I would say, especially this one. So I wonder who's going to be the one to take that title off for. Will it be Charlotte? Is WrestleMania going to be Bianca and Charlotte? You know what? If they do Ronda Rousey versus Becky as is planned, then that could be the other match, Charlotte versus Bianca Belair. And that will be a good match because they both know how to work. So, really good match. I would probably say the women's match was the best match of the night as far as just a lot of crazy things going on. So, they had a show-long storyline that picked up with what happened on SmackDown, which is that Sami Zayn had a conversation with Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn lied to the Usos. I forget if it was Jimmy or Jay. I think it was Jay. It was Jay. And they had this story where Jay was talking to Roman Reigns, like, I don't know if we can trust this guy. The whole angle going into this show was that they don't know if they can trust Sami if Kevin Owens is on the other side of the team. And they are, of course, best friends. They've been on and off. They've feuded together. Both have been baby faces and heels, depending on which time. And they've been feuding nonstop for about 20 years, or teaming up. So they've been friends for a long time, and I love how they tied all that into this. So there was a segment later in the show where Roman Reigns talked to Sami and was like, "Can I count on you?" And Sami was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you going to turn on us?" So I really liked that. I really, really enjoyed this part of the story. It was really well done, and this story with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline is the best stuff on WWE television. And this eventual turn, because the Bloodline will turn on Sami. That's going to happen. It is going to happen at some point. It's unquestionable. It's going to happen. Tonight was not the night to make it happen because it's not the right time yet, but there is no question that Sami Zayn will get turned on at some point and that Kevin Owens will be his brother's keeper. But for right now, that's not happening. We're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But I think that, without question, this is the best long-term angle in the business right now, easily. Then we had AJ Styles and Finn Balor. I really liked this match. Almost 20 minutes. Couple things to note. Michael Cole talked about, and this was cool, Michael Cole talked about the entire history of the Bullet Club and actually used the term Bullet Club. That was surprising. I know they've talked about the past and, Carl Anderson and his history with Finn Balor and AJ and all that stuff, but they haven't actually gone through, like, the Bullet Club and what it means to New Japan, and they actually discussed it here. And that's beautiful because New Japan did a show with AEW earlier this year. New Japan is going to have a show coming up where you're going to have both AEW and WWE contracted wrestlers on there. So the truth is, the truth is that the Forbidden Door is absolutely more open now than it ever has been. So this match was great. AJ Styles won clean with the phenomenal forearm. They had a lot of good near falls. This was just a classic one-on-one great wrestling match. Now, what was not a great wrestling match one-on-one was Ronda Rousey and Shotzi Blackheart. Ronda Rousey, man, if you saw this match was bowling shoe ugly. There were a couple of spots that looked sloppy. There was a spot where Ronda, I guess she was afraid to take a DDT on the apron, which, again, I don't blame her because that's a scary spot, but just don't put it in the match. That was absolutely horrible. Just, she's so uncoordinated. She is the opposite of Logan Paul, who has picked up to wrestling like he's been in the business for 30 years. it feels that way with him. Maybe not 30, but at least a few years. Ronda actually has wrestled matches going back to 2018, and she's still just so uncoordinated. And she's an athlete. She's a legitimate athlete. She winds up winning the match, which I wonder who's going to win this match. Like, it's so obvious. One of the things they did on this show that I thought was cool was they had video packages for talent that wasn't on this show. There was a Cody Rhodes package, a Charlotte package, a Liv Morgan package, and that's good. That's actually pretty smart because they're giving us packages for other pieces of talent that were not on this show to keep us, to remind us that they're still around. And I like that. That's actually pretty smart. That's one thing WWE blows AEW without of the water is the video packages and how to put a show together. Like, that's one thing that they've got hand over fist. Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, and Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. I really, really like this one, yo. These guys worked hard. There was some crazy stuff. There was like a triple submission where Bobby Lashley had, I think it was Seth in the Hurt Lock, and then Theory came up from behind with the sleeper hold. The booking going into this was pretty bad. What they did with Theory and the Money in the Bank on Raw a few weeks ago was really bad booking. Very bad idea because they buried the U.S. title, they buried Mustafa Ali, they buried the briefcase, and they buried Austin Theory. And I'm using the word buried properly. They really, really, really hurt him. But now they have thankfully reversed that because guess what? Austin Theory won. He won the match. He is the U.S. champion. The way he won, though, was a bit controversial in the sense of, I don't know how I feel about this. So basically what happened, and it was a little bit, the finish didn't land the way I think they wanted it to, but it was a little bit, it's a bit curious how they did it. So what happened was, Rollins was going to do like a Falcon Arrow, but then Lashley spears Rollins, and that was cool. But then what happened was, as a result of that, because he had him up, Theory, while like Rollins had him up, lands on top of Rollins, already like hurt, got the 1, 2, 3, and Lashley was out. Like, he couldn't get up in time. So I like the finish a lot, but I'm worried they're going to turn Austin Theory into this like, I get lucky every time I win instead of actually winning character, and you got to be careful with that because the dude's already walking that razor's edge where he's almost on the point of being a joke. Vince overpushed him like crazy last year, and then when Triple H took over, it was like almost the opposite, but not really, not fully. He loses the Gargano feud, and then he goes on to just be a joke. I mean, he was trying to cash in and gets punched out by Tyson Fury. So many things they did with him that made him almost like a cartoon character. And I'm fine with that for an undercard act, but this guy's in there with Lashley and Seth Rollins, both of which are main event talent, who have headline shows. So, I don't know, man. We'll see where they go with it, but I do like the idea of him being like a sleazeball. I also should mention The Miz were on this show, another character that wasn't really, he wasn't on the show, but the package for him, and The New Day. So, main event match, War Games, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and then Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch, the Brawling Brutes, against the Bloodline, which is Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, the Usos, and Sami Zayn. Unlike the women's match, this match, and I called it, when the women's match ended, I told people I was watching the show, they go, watch, they're going to make the main event all about the storytelling and the drama more than just crazy spots. And there were a few of them here. Pete Dunne, Butch did like a moonsault, landing on two guys. There was some good stuff early in the match, but it was nowhere near as crazy, and it didn't have anywhere near as many stunts and wild moves as the women's match. But I like what they did because they didn't have to, they had to make it different, but had to make it memorable. And the story here, it's all about the story. The story here is that Sami Zayn is caught between a rock and a hard place. Will he betray the Bloodline and go back and help out Kevin Owens or not? And they were teasing this a lot. There was a lot of little things in the match that I thought were really well done when it comes to facial expressions. The way that Roman would look at Sammy and look at the Usos and Jay and Sammy's facials and Kevin Owens. This was great storytelling when it comes to mannerisms and body language and things like that. This was a master class. I think if you're a wrestling student, there's a lot of classic wrestling you can watch that has this, especially Jerry Lawler and Nick Bockwinkel, because and Larry Zbyszko, they were masters at doing facials. Same thing with even like guys like Ric Flair, of course, and Hogan. Hogan was great with the face. Hogan would sell and look like he was really in pain. Like, those are the real masters of the craft when it comes to telling a story. Like him or not, Hogan is good at this. But here, they did it, and the finish to me was beautiful. Very, very well done. So it pretty much comes down to it being Kevin Owens and Roman, and they're having like a one-on-one exchange, and Owens is getting the advantage here. Owens has the advantage. And there's a spot where Kevin Owens hits the stunner on Roman Reigns, covers him, and before the ref counts 3, Sami Zayn saves him. Now, prior to that, Roman was saving I think Owens stunned Solo, and then Roman saved him, and they had a fun little exchange. So then they have this thing where Roman and Sami are like Kevin and Sami are like looking at each other, like, okay, where is this going? And then it led to a spot where Owens was going to go kick Roman for I think it was Roman, or maybe it was Jay, and then Sami crouches down and low blows Kevin Owens in the nuts. And then he hits him with the haluva kick. So Sami Zayn, but the way he did it, this is what I loved about it. The way he did it with his facials, it felt like he did not want to do it. It was that whole I didn't want to do it to my best friend, but I'm loyal to these guys now. Just tremendous, dude. Sami Zayn is one of the absolute MVPs of the company. Past 6 months have been absolutely phenomenal for this guy. Really, the whole year has been, but he is in every segment he's in the ring, outside of it. He makes them laugh. He's a fun guy. Backstage, wrestling matches. The dude is just incredible. Phenomenal. And so what happens is he low blows Owens, hits him with the haluva kick, and then they bring a table out, and then he points to Jay, because remember, Sami and Jay had their issues to finish the match. Jay comes off the top with a frog splash through the table. 1, 2, 3. The Bloodline win. Roman gets up and hugs Sami Zayn. The Usos hug him. Solo hugs him. And they all are there with their hands up. So even though they're heels, the story was that Sami Zayn picked the Bloodline. He's loyal to them. And what a great finish to a show. Just absolutely phenomenal storytelling. This is going to go in many different directions. The Bloodline is going to eventually turn on Sami when he screws up. It's going to happen. You have to be an idiot to not think it's going to happen. Right? And then Kevin Owens will be his brother's keeper. But here, for this time, Sami made his choice. And I do feel like we're going to get another Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn chapter in that never-ending saga. We're going to get that now very soon. Because that story, their careers have been so aligned with each other that this all makes sense. It was all very well executed. Tremendous storytelling. I loved it. I look forward so much to seeing the television this coming week, see where they go. But I wish there was more pay-per-views, maybe one in December to kind of build to. But right now we've got 12 weeks before the Rumble? No, it's not 12. It's 9, right? 9 weeks before the Rumble. So there's plenty of time to build up challengers for Roman and plenty of time to tell this story. So tremendous pay-per-view. It furthered storylines, gave us entertainment. What more could you ask for? Both AEW with Full Gear and WWE have delivered. And there's also New Japan too. So as a wrestling fan, I have been satisfied for the month of November 2022. What did you think about the show? Let me know down below. I'll talk to y'all real soon. Take care.